I think you're curious to know that there's a story about the amazing digital circus. More precisely, an amazing digital circus was made based on the story. The true fans have already guessed what it is about. Of course, about the 1967 short story by author Harlan Ellison. I don't have a mouth, but I have to scream. And in general, we have already told and retold this story with a story a long time ago. And that's how we understand what the plot is. A very evil computer with artificial intelligence has taken over the world, and it's all the fault of the stupidity of mankind who staged a world war. Each of the advanced powers created a supercomputer, and there were 3 of them, which led to the unification of these units into one, and he decided that the main threat was not the enemy, but all people in general. 109 years have passed. Only 5 people are alive, and the computer has specially kept them alive all these years, and now a supercomputer, or a combined master computer, and later it became an adaptive manipulator, then decided to have fun with an aggressive threat. He needed these 5 to pass various tests or adventures, but there were no fun races in the kingdom of Candy Canyon, and such horror can be called a stretch. In general, I read the story. It turned out to be surprisingly very small, and I have something to tell and compare. But I warn you that an amazing digital circus, and I don't have a mouth, but I have to shout these are 2 completely different works. The plot of the first one is based on the second one. It's not a film adaptation, oddly enough, so what's the difference? Can an amazing digital circus be so much like a story? Now we're going to talk about it. The most discussed character who is constantly compared to his prototype from the story is Cain. He is a funny and mischievous character, a fabulous showman. It feels like he knows neither sadness nor sadness. And in fact, it really is. Artificial intelligence, it is programmed just to entertain the players entering the digital circus. This is its function, even if it is far from ambiguous and sometimes cruel. It absolutely does not care about the feelings of the players, their panic from entering the circus. It removes NPCs without much hesitation, even if they do not want it. However, Cain is not some kind of future killing machine and not a soulless beast, although it is partly such simply in its essence, but not according to the program. Unlike a supercomputer, it does not entertain or amuse anyone. It is an aggressive and violent creature. He also creates some tests for his guys, throws monsters at them, specially makes crevices so that they fall there, breaks something for the heroes, and scoffs in every possible way. In the universe of his story, he is kind of like a local god who has taken over this pathetic planet. In fact, the whole planet is one big supercomputer. He hates humanity very much, but still could not completely destroy it, because if he were left alone, he would be bored. So 5 people as his own toys are quite enough for him. And even though we don't know much about Cain and the digital circus itself, it's unlikely that Cain has any strange inclinations. I repeat, it's just artificial intelligence in the form of an NPC that entertains everyone, something like a cartoon character created by a neural network, and a very advanced neural network. The supercomputer was originally created to kill, which eventually led to such an extreme as the destruction of all mankind. And what, strictly speaking, happens to the characters, who they are, in addition to the artificial intelligence of Cain, there are 6 other characters in the circus, and 5 people in the story in the circus. These are random people who tried to put on a headset and ended up here. They do not remember their names, but, according to the author, Gooseworks, their past life is not forgotten. As far as they remember it, it is unknown. Perhaps only the names are forgotten in the story. The characters all remember their names, including except one. It just so happens that a computer can influence consciousness and the inner human body. It can change a person's appearance, his orientation, change his name. One of the characters is called Nimdok, and it turned out that it was just some kind of set of letters. This is not the real name of the person. The computer just thought it was a good joke, but he made the character Benny look like a monkey at all. One exact similarity between the characters of the circus and the story is that they cannot die in a circus. People are just in the bodies of the characters. Someone can be pierced, limbs can come off, someone stretches, but no one feels pain and does not die in the story. People just live for 109 years. And the computer tries in every possible way to keep them alive so that they live as long as possible. It is always desirable to have someone to have fun with, And then the question arises, are there any other prototypes besides Cain? To be honest, reading the story, I did not pay attention to it, except for the supercomputer. I did not find anyone, and even more so we knew about the computer initially, when we just started to disassemble the digital circus from the pilot. There is generally one woman in the story. Her name is Ellen, and there are at least 3 of them in the circus. If you count Zubul, then 4. So what are the prototypes of the characters here on the other hand? Gorister may well become the prototype of Jax, but does not behave like the most beaten character. It's just that in the story, he is indifferent to everything and the computer made him so. Before that, apparently, he was quite a funny, mischievous, and cheerful guy. Nimdok, the oldest of the men, may look like Kinger, and Kinger, as we know, is probably the longest in the digital circus, and he constantly talks about collecting canned food. It's like a constant repetition of the phrase about a collection of insects. I don't know, maybe the comparisons are far-fetched, but this is the only thing I found. It's hard to speak for the characters of a possible prototype of Pomni. There is clearly no one here. It's certainly not Ellen. Rather, the youngest Ted character here looks like Pomni. In fact, he came to the same post-apocalyptic world later than everyone else, like Pomni to the circus. He shows symptoms of delirium and paranoia, which indicates his gradual mental transformation. We can see the same mood in the main character of the circus. Only the second episode shows the opposite situation of Pomni. She does not slide further and further into madness, as if she had some hope that everything is not so bad. An amazing digital circus is a prison, but there is still a real world in which perhaps you can still get out. And if you can't, then, in principle, it's not bad with people. Despite it would seem, for all the hopelessness of the situation, a person remains a person. The ending of the second episode shows this in the story, probably only going to another planet or death. As you already understood, the story is quite tough, and the plot is clearly different there. If the amazing digital circus is a black comedy with a bright and attractive picture, then this story is gloomy. Yes, we have characters who go through various computer tests, meet monsters on their way, who immediately disappear, are regularly crippled according to Ted's story. We learn that they all once wanted to die, but they did not succeed. Something stopped them, and not so much the computer itself as an interesting thought. Ted immediately tells us that this may be due to some inner hope that has not yet died in our characters, and suddenly it is still possible to return to normal life. Alas, the plot turned out to be much darker. At one point, the computer started playing a lot and decided to turn one of the characters into a fierce monster by increasing his severe hunger. Benny attacked Gorister. Ted at this time figured out what to do, took a sharp pike and pierced first Benny and then Gorister. Without giving them any chance to survive, Ellen realized what Ted was up to. She grabbed the closest one sharper and plunged the Nimdok into her mouth with all her might. And at that moment, it even seemed that the supercomputer sighed. His favorite toys were taken away from him. 3 of them could not be resurrected. They were dead in the end. A small conclusion is made. Let the supercomputer be a high-tech machine. Thanks to his strength and talent, he could keep these 5 alive. But as such, he was definitely not a god. He could not bring our heroes back. Ted finished off Ellen, although she did not have time to say anything, but her face read, "Thank you," a creepy ending. After such an incident, the supercomputer went into a rage and turned Ted into something like what you see on the cover, a shapeless, barely moving creature. At least 4 were saved, but the last one now has no mouth to scream. This phrase ends the story. I don't think that even an amazing digital circus will follow a similar plot after reading the story. It leaves a lot of interesting thoughts and similarities. Let's face it, the cat didn't cry. So guessing the further plot, especially from the story, is a thankless and absolutely useless task, although it's also fun to listen to some theories. Well, what do you think? Will the plot of an amazing digital circus develop based on the plot of the story, I Don't Have a Mouth, But I Have to Scream? Write your opinion in the comments, and how do you like the story at all?